I was walking home from work at Tim Hortons since I was relatively close and I hated driving at night. The way back was tedious on foot, but I made sure to find shortcuts to avoid wasting time. The main road on my neighborhood was quite busy, but the fact that there was no sidewalk on this well-maintained road was a joke. This meant that walking along the road was quite risky at night, considering the large amount of traffic feeding in. A few weeks ago, I found a gravel path making its way through the foliage beside the road to a kids' park near the entrance of my neighborhood. The park was never occupied at this time of day, or any, for that matter, due to its old, unkept appearance. Today, that changed. As I passed through the trail to the kids' park, I noticed a rusty swing in use. Although it was hard to tell who was using it, I approached closer and realized that the person on the swing was barely swinging at all. It was moving an inch forward and backward. As the person was basically keeping still, I couldn't make out their facial features, but it soon became clear to me that this was no child. It was a fully grown man. He seemed to be wearing baggy clothing and a mask. I walked up to about 20 meters from the park when I saw it. The man was wearing a clown suit. "Hello?" I confusedly asked. There was no response. I walked up to the swing set and got a closer look. No wonder there was no response. It was a mannequin in a clown suit in a sitting position on the swings. It was beyond me how it got there, or who placed it there, but I continued home nonetheless. My house was relatively modern, but I got it for a cheap price because the neighborhood was laughable. The roads hadn't been paved in a decade. No lawns were maintained, and many other homes on the block were in dire need of renovation like my renovated house. I located my home and entered using my key. Today was a busy shift, as it was a Monday, and several people wanted to start their week with a coffee and bagel. Extremely tired, I headed straight for my bed and tucked myself into my comfortable sheets. I was home alone and had been since I moved in, which is probably why when I dozed off, I dreamt about parties, magicians, dancers, presents, and cake that night. These dreams were cut short though. I awoke to an aggressive series of knocks at my front door. Immediately I checked my bedside clock and the numbers 318 glared back at me in bright red. My mind raced to consider several possibilities. There were none. Who is at my front door at 3 a.m. in the morning? Knock, knock, knock. I sat up straight. Was this a prank? This person isn't going to stop bothering me, are they? Annoyed, I lazily got out of bed and put on a shirt. I slipped on a pair of slides and made my way downstairs. Suddenly, as I was walking down the staircase, I felt an air of unease about the situation. This could potentially be dangerous. So before heading to the door, I went to the living room and equipped myself with my trusty pistol hidden in a secret compartment within my coffee table. It was already loaded, and I proceeded towards the door. Slightly nervous, I unlocked the door and swung it open. Facing me was the clown mannequin. I didn't even move for a solid 5 seconds in pure shock, before I angrily started craning my neck around my front yard to see who had played this prank on me at this hour. I scanned the surrounding area in more depth, but to no avail. The mannequin in front of me was still as a rock and was staring right at me. I was frustrated that I let some prankster get the better of me and run off. So I slammed the door in the clown's face and decided to deal with it when I got up for work. Sleeping soundly, I drifted off into more obscure, faded dreams this time. I was somewhere, with someone, enjoying a laugh. Perhaps I had just seen something hilarious. It occurred to me that I wasn't the only one laughing, and this continued for an unusual long amount of time. The laughing became intense, and it felt like this dream wasn't funny anymore. Soon, the sound was horrible. It was wheezing, insane laughter that was definitely not coming out of me. I woke up in a cold sweat, squirming around the uncomfortable pool around me in my bed. But the laughing continued. Perplexed, I rubbed my eyes and pinched myself. This was all but reality. I sat up and listened carefully to the sound. It was coming from outside. My window was half open, and I immediately regretted the decision to leave it that way before I slept. Someone or something was out there. It was that guy, wasn't it? I quickly picked up my pistol that I brought upstairs and cocked it back. In a swift motion, I aimed it outside and downwards, onto the ground. But what I saw will continue to plague my nightmares. It was the same clown mannequin, standing perfectly still. The mask was made to a grin, and its head had been tilted to face directly up at my window. The laughter had ceased, but I filled with rage. In sheer fury, I screamed at the top of my lungs. "Who's there?" That was loud. Really loud. I waited a few seconds to see if any neighboring lights turned on, if I had disturbed somebody in their slumber. Nothing. Returning to my previous annoyed state, I glanced around the area trying to spot whoever was playing this sick joke on me. Everything seemed normal. Nothing was out of place, and there was nowhere someone could have hidden down there. I would have closed the window, this time fully, and gone back to bed had it not been for the gut-wrenching sound of the same exact laughter. I turned around to face out the window, and, of course, the clown had departed. What a night, I thought, as I let out a sigh of despair. Not taking any chances, I went downstairs to make sure all the doors were locked and that all the windows in the house were locked as well. I couldn't sleep tonight, as I was either going insane or I had just been a victim of the creepiest prank ever. I waited an hour and a half for something else to happen, but nothing did. I noticed I was becoming very tired, as I had worked a full shift and my sleep was interrupted twice by a mannequin in a clown suit. I was angry. I told myself if I saw the person behind this, I would either call the cops immediately or deal with them myself using my pistol. I dug my head into my pillow and screamed until I calmed down, relaxed, and eventually passed out. The morning came, and for that, I was grateful. Sunlight poured into the room and illuminated every corner of it. Something was off though. The sunlight was dark crimson. This was my room, but it didn't seem like it at all. Yep, another dream. I was not looking through my own eyes, but rather the eyes of something else in my room. In fact, I was staring directly at myself. I was sound asleep in my dream too. I just stood there, unmoving, concentrating on the lump in the bed that I was. Time seemed to stand still. Perhaps time didn't progress right now. Whatever or whenever now was. The crimson in the room was perpetual, and so was everything else. Until I started to notice something new. Laughter. I woke up, properly this time, and noticed I was breathing heavily. I've done this before, I thought. My heart was racing though. and I could not wrap my mind around the dream I just experienced. I had heard the sick laughter before waking up, and evidently was delivering further into the depths of insanity now. All that changed when I sat up in my bed. The thing was right there. It was standing directly in front of my bed. This was no dream, and I was not insane. I screamed, probably louder than I ever have, jumped out of my bed, and tackled the mannequin. It fell easily, as should most pieces of plastic. I was in a craze and lunged for my pistol on the nightstand. I shot at the thing, then shot again. I shot a few more times for good measure, then threw the gun at it after it was out. My breath was even heavier, and I stared blankly at the mannequin I just shot at several times. What just happened? The situation was absurd. There was a clown mannequin in my room. I slightly chuckled in triumph. I had defeated the mannequin. I doubled over and broke into hysterical laughter. Shout out to my superfans, Sweet Black Swan, Tacy, and Brooklyn. I really appreciate you guys supporting my channel, and I really look forward to making more content for everyone.